The Free Agents podcast contains mature themes and adult language. Any discussion of gambling is for entertainment purposes only. Please abide by all laws in your location regarding gambling.
Can we start?
This week on The Free Agents.
He complained, there's no team discipline. Team discipline on a team that's supposed to be tanking. They're going to get a top 3 pick probably.
That's the issue. Is the reason why the Lakers are losing so bad is not because of the point guard plays, because of selfish around other players.
Greg Monroe and Gordon Hayward are not good enough to put you over the top.
And we're in a changing society. You know, when all is said and done, I think that they're going to find ways not to use that word.
Welcome to the Free Agent Sports Podcast. I'm Joe Smargy, and joining us this week, we've got LJ, as always, on Skype with us. LJ, how you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Pretty good. And our new guest, Joe Griffin, joins us from the great state of New Jersey. Joe, how's it going on the shore?
It's going well. It's going well. It's not snowing, so I'm happy about that.
So we have an exciting show this week. We got a bunch of topics, a bunch of NBA things to go over, a little bit of baseball as well. We're going to hit it off. We missed all the trade deadline talk last week. Our show actually got deleted in a destroyed hard drive on our computer. And
by missing all the trade deadline talk means that we talked about how little they did at the trade deadline.
Yeah, it was pretty boring.
The NBA has become a free agency league, basically. The trades were pretty meaningless, to be honest with you. I mean, Evan Turner was the biggest name to. The Evan Turner Danny Granger trade was the biggest trade of the day. If I'm wrong, correct me, but I think that was the biggest trade of the day. And Evan Turner's a sixth. They basically traded 6-man for a 6-man. So I mean, how important really was that trade?
I think for the long term and longevity for the Pacers, I think it was huge, just based on the fact that everything that Evan Turner does. I mean, you look at, and he's not only a scorer, he can rebound, he can play defense, and he can also dish the rock. So it's kind of, you got to look at it in that perspective. The only thing he doesn't do is he doesn't help them with their awful three-point shooting.
Well, he's not much of a shooter, and he's really not much of a defender. I don't know he never got a label as a good defender, but in Frank Vogel's system, he'll be a better defender. And on that team, he's just going to be better. Those guys, that whole team is going to make Evan Turner a better player. He may not put up as good a numbers as he did with Philadelphia, but those were raw numbers on a shitty team that didn't play any defense and just launched 3 after 3 after 3. And in Indiana, he's going to have a more structured system and actually will probably be a better player. But I don't know if that does that make Indiana a better team? Does that put them over the edge?
A lot better
Will that help them?
Danny Granger.
Yeah,
well, I mean,
it might.
They're better than when they had Danny Granger, but I mean, a lot better. I mean, is Evan Turner that much of an upgrade over Danny Granger?
Well, Danny Granger's been injured, so he hasn't had a consistent season in many years. So I'd say in production terms, yeah, it's a better move for them because they get someone who can immediately impact the lineup, and Danny Granger is still coming up after his latest injury. So it's, I think in the long run, it's something that's going to help them out more and add more depth to their bench. And Danny Granger didn't want a bench role. He wanted to start, and that wasn't going to happen in Indiana with the way that Lance Stephenson's been playing. Same thing with Paul George. There's just not enough room for him to start.
Yeah, I don't think Danny Granger realized just how far he had fallen. I think Danny Granger still thought he was the Danny Granger of 3 years ago. And Danny Granger needs to come to the reality that he is not the player he used to be. And Evan Turner, he's working for a contract. He's a free agent at the end of this season, so he's got something to prove. He's got to fit into a system, and he's got to show that he's willing to be a team player, and he gets to sign someplace else for better money. Will it be the Lakers, where Pau Gasol is unhappy? He's a free agent this year too.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to get in the tank here. And they got crushed by the Pacers the other night.
They traded Steve Blake away, made Kobe very unhappy. Kobe was crying about it on Twitter.
I would say at least Pau Gasol grew some balls for once over the last couple of days, huh?
That is true.
Yeah, it doesn't, he's complained, there's no team discipline. Team discipline on a team that's supposed to be tanking. They're going to get a top 3 pick probably.
Well, that's the most trash talk I think he's ever had in his entire career, though.
Pau is we've seen Pau be awesome. I mean, in the Olympics he was awesome. We've seen him be great in the playoffs for the Lakers. We've seen him be a great player. He can be a great player again. The dream scenario that's been floated is he ends up in Memphis with his brother. Somehow they pull off a 3-team trade and he ends up in Memphis with his brother. And I forgot who ends up in the Lakers and who ends up with the Bulls, but I saw a 3-team trade floated out there that actually would work for everybody involved. And I think with Zach Randolph leaving the Memphis this offseason, that would be a good spot for Pau to land. Play power forward next to his brother, and then have them sign Ricky Rubio. They'd have the whole Spanish Olympic basketball team there.
Well, the same thing will happen to that team like happened in the Olympics. They won't be able to beat the Americans.
Why? Nobody's going to beat the American team. The American team's going to be ridiculously good. You're looking at an American team with Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James, the Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant. It's going to be a ridiculous team.
Of course. But when all is said and done, just started talking about the Lakers, man, you look at it as a team that, Kendall Marshall, I think, is to be honest, he's a star in the making as a point guard. If he can actually learn how to shoot a jump shot, I think that he'd be a tremendous point guard in this league. He's averaging 9 assists. And he was cut by the Phoenix Suns, or traded, and then he was cut again by the Wizards, and then he was signed by the Lakers. He's averaging 10 points and 9 assists a game. You know what I mean?
That is Mike D'Antoni. That's what that is. Mike D'Antoni inflates everybody's statistics. Just ask all the people who've signed Joe Johnson since he left Phoenix.
Well, Mike
D'Antoni. Huh?
He had a good few years in Atlanta, didn't he?
He never put up the numbers like he did when he was in Phoenix, though. That's the thing. When you're in a Mike,
when he was in Atlanta.
Yeah, but it's not as much as he was putting up when he was with Phoenix's offense. Phoenix's offense. When you're in a Mike D'Antoni offense, you have to adjust for the curve when you leave, because he just does things differently than the rest of the NBA. So Kendall Marshall, the reason why Kendall Marshall is thriving is because he's in a wide open Mike D'Antoni offense. You put Kendall Marshall in a less wide-open offense, he's not going to do as well.
I kind of disagree, because most of D'Antoni's offense is geared towards a shooting point guard, someone like Steve Nash. Kendall Marshall isn't that. He's more of a distributing point guard. So what happens with the Lakers' offense, as you see, is Nick Young runs the ball down, then he runs through the offense through Kendall Marshall, and Kendall Marshall finds the right pass. That's the issue. Is the reason why the Lakers are losing so bad is not because of the point guard plays, because of selfishness around other players. I think that's where D'Antoni's system is killing everyone, and that's where D'Antoni is kind of, I think that he's the bad part of this team right now, because honestly, as you have pieces in place, that could be good, you let them flourish rather than just letting all the guys who really don't mean anything, like the Kent Bazemores, like Marshawn Brooks, take 24 shots in a game. You know what I mean? You develop the players you're actually going to keep, like a Kendall Marshall.
They're not going to keep Kendall Marshall. Kendall Marshall won't be on that team next year.
Oh, he'll be on that team. The way that he's distributing the ball and scoring.
I'd be willing to bet a $20 bill today that Kendall Marshall will not be on that team next year. I can pretty much guarantee he won't be on that team next year. That team is going to be totally revamped in the offseason.
Of course.
Totally revamped in the offseason.
James and Carmelo Anthony with all the money that they're losing. They're getting off the books at the end of the season.
Well, they're going to go after. There's some pretty good free agents, but I think Chris Bosh would be a better signing for that team than LeBron James or Carmelo Anthony. I just don't think there's enough oxygen in the Los Angeles Lakers locker room for LeBron, Carmelo, and Kobe Bryant. That's a lot. I don't think Kobe's going to allow two big alpha males to come join him. I just don't see it happening.
Of Kobe has 1 2 years left maximum, so I think that if he wants another chip, he's going to have to allow LeBron James or Carmelo Anthony onto that team, because that's the only way they're going to win. They're not going to win with the Dante Exum if they draft him. They're not going to win with the Parker if they draft him, because they're going to need time to develop. What they're going to need to do is get some star power around them. You know, let Pau Gasol go, get a new set of young legs as a power forward, maybe trade for Kevin Love, then have a team that survives around Kobe.
They don't have the pieces to trade for Kevin Love, so they're going to have to sign Love when he becomes a free agent.
They're going to have to trade their first-round draft pick. That's been all that's said and done. If they're going to make a push for Kevin Love, they're going to have to trade one of their top picks. They're going to have to,
but if you're Minnesota, but they don't have any other pieces to give up for Kevin Love.
Well, if they have a top 5 pick and they're willing to trade the top 5 pick,
that doesn't mean anything. A top 5 pick is not going to get you Kevin Love.
And this in the 2014 draft, yes, it does. You have 5.
No,
this
it
draft
doesn't
is just as good as the 2003 NBA draft. So you're going to get another.
You're not going to. You can't get a player like Kevin Love for just even if you have the number 1 pick in the draft. Kevin Love is better than any player you're going to draft in that draft.
Tell me something. What does Kevin Love do outside of rebounding and shooting threes?
He is considered one of the best players, one of the top 15 players in the NBA. Anybody you draft in this draft is not going to be considered a top 15 NBA player for the next 5 years.
I agree to disagree, because I think Parker's going to be a top 5 player in the league within his second year. I think the same thing with Andrew Wiggins. It may take 4 years, but I think that you'll have the pieces in place in the way that Minnesota is looking. They're not going to be able to keep Kevin Love, so they're going to need to get as many.
They're not going to be able to keep Kevin Love, but they're not going to trade him to a team that can't give them assets.
But now the team that has the top 5 pick in this draft is an asset.
The team that has the assets to trade for him is the Celtics. The Celtics actually have multiple picks over multiple years, and they can give up a whole slew of picks to get them, and they can throw in players like Jeff Green, who's on a reasonable contract.
They can throw in Pau Gasol on an expiring contract and be able to revamp.
Nobody cares about expiring contracts. You need actual assets back now. The NBA has changed. The expiring contracts are useless unless you can sign players. So
unless you're a team like Minnesota that's in a very small market and they need the money.
Yeah, but
the reason why Minnesota hasn't been successful is because they don't want to spend the money. So the reason why they're doing so bad is they try to build to the draft with the Kevin Love, the Ricky Rubios, but it's not working. So now they need to find a way to revamp it because they're not going to be able to sign Kevin Love.
Everybody has the same amount of money to spend. You have a baseline you have to reach. You have a floor you have to reach, and you have a ceiling you can hit, and you have to spend your money within that spot.
Correct. But when was the last time you saw the Minnesota Timberwolves come close to reaching
When was the last time
Garnett wanted to leave? That's why they made the trade That's why they made the trade for all those guys from Boston, because they wanted that. They wanted that and release on the cap.
Because no free agents want to stay there.
Of course not. It's Minnesota.
The only time, So they're not. So giving them cap space isn't going to matter.
It's not about cap space. It's about getting them assets so they can sign people. But again, if you get 3 first-round draft picks from the Lakers, correct, and you get a top 5 pick in this draft, which is considered this is considered one of the top 5 drafts of the last 15 years.
It doesn't matter. That's meaningless.
It is meaningless because if you can get an Anthony Parker,
they're not going to trade They're not going to trade one player, and Pau Gasol's a free agent at the end of the year. There's no expiring contract. This trade is not happening. It didn't happen at the trade deadline, so there's nothing to expire. So he's a free agent. If they want Pau Gasol, they can go out and sign him. But they already have Pekovic at center, so they don't need him. They have Kevin Love. What they need is other players around him that can play some defense. They need a rim protector. They need a 3-and-D guy at the small forward. Corey Brewer's not doing it for him. They need Ricky Rubio to develop a jump shot. Minnesota is not going to sign free agents. What they need is assets back that can play. When they traded away Kevin Garnett, they got Al Jefferson back. They got a real asset, and they got draft picks back from the Celtics.
But the difference is that you're getting an asset in a top 5 pick to make something happen. Again, a top 5 pick in one of the top drafts that's the top 5 draft in the last 20 years.
That is not enough.
So you're telling me they're trading for Al Jefferson, who was averaging 14 points and 7 rebounds, and they got him. Gerald Green, who was doing nothing his entire career. Sebastian Telfair, and Ryan Gomes is good enough for Kevin Garnett.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that.
You'll get more in return investment from this trade than you would in any of the others.
One player. You're offering me a straight-up trade of either Joel Embiid, Andrew Wiggins, or Jabari Parker for Kevin Love. you would fire an NBA GM if they actually propose that to you.
Not if you know that Kevin Love is coming back and you get some assets in the long run that are going to turn.
That's not an asset. You can get better assets elsewhere for Kevin Love. If you're going to make that trade, you need to go elsewhere where you can get better assets. You're not going to trade him to the Lakers. The Lakers will not be able to make that trade. They do not have the assets. The Lakers are not going to trade for Kevin Love.
Well, Devid Stern's gone from league, so I think they will be able to make that trade.
He will not be around to put the kibosh on that trade.
It doesn't matter. The trade is not going to happen unless Minnesota wants to be built. I'm sorry.
Okay, we got to move on. We got to move on. So, Devid Stern stepped down this week. And as time will tell his legacy. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about Devid Stern as commissioner of the NBA in all his years?
Well, the best thing I think Devid Stern has done is take away the short shorts in the NBA, to be honest.
I'll give you that one.
Well, he's not. Let's be honest now. That was the Fab Five that destroyed the short shorts. We got Jalen Rose to blame for the destruction of the short shorts. When the Fab Five said, you know what, we're going to be cooler than the guys in the NBA. The guys in the NBA went, shit. Then they went to the commission. They were like, man, we got to wear baggy shorts, all right? And they said, all right. But then the trade-off was they couldn't wear that shit to the arena anymore. They had to wear suits. So they got to wear their baggy shorts on the court, but they had to wear suits on their way to the game. They couldn't dress like they were in a hip-hop video anymore.
What about the long sleeve uniforms?
No more white tees and saggy jeans.
What about
as you're heading to the game? No more looking like a little hopper on the corner.
Yeah. What about the long sleeve unis? What about that, LJ? That was probably
long sleeve. Yeah, I don't even remember the long sleeve. You mean the shirts that they got this year?
Yeah.
Who cares? They're just trying to sell crap. That wasn't David Stern. That was some jamoke in the marketing department that said, if we put sleeves on shirts and we put them on the TV on Christmas Day, idiots will buy them. You got a good point. Let's do it.
I'm sorry, those are the ugliest things I've ever seen. The only T-shirt that comes close to looking good is the Clippers one. I mean, the All-Star uniforms were the ugliest uniforms I've ever seen in my entire life.
Still not as bad
as college women's basketball pink uniforms.
Oh,
still not as bad as the NFL's throwback uniforms, especially the Steelers.
Oh yeah, the Steelers. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, still not as bad as the throwback uniforms in the NFL. I mean, there's always been bad uniform choices. I mean, that's a tradition in sports. So.
No, I have to say, every Patriots uniform historically has been at least decent. I've never seen an old Pats uniform that was like hideous.
No.
Okay, well, I mean, it's pretty tough to mess up red, white, and blue, but go ahead.
But going back to Devid Stern, I will say is, what he's done for the league is he truthfully has transformed the NBA into a moneymaker. One of the top leagues in professional sports in the U.S. I mean, the biggest issues that he's come on is just, the whole referee thing with Donovan. I mean, there's always been question marks about, favoritism.
Oh, you mean with Donaghy and all that? Yeah, the whole system was corrupt at one time. Exactly. And he was able to overcome it somehow. He did fix the lottery for the Knicks, and he did allow, Michael Jordan to go away for 2 years after he gambled on basketball and go play baseball.
Well, but I mean, didn't win a lottery since he's been the commissioner. He's a New York guy. He doesn't want any team from Boston doing anything.
That's true.
He's a hater. Yeah, and we got to know if Adam Silver is going to fix the lottery this year for the Lakers. That's what we really.
If you saw my Facebook post a few weeks back or my Twitter feed, it was I guarantee you if they're a top 7 team in the lottery, they're definitely getting the number 1 overall pick.
Oh, now they even have a better chance. They just keep losing. And it just makes it easier and easier for it to be fixed. It just makes it so much easier to be fixed. And really, the Lakers would be smart if they grabbed that kid, Joel Embiid. That's the kid that's going to be the next. Everybody's saying he's the next Hakeem Olajuwon. So if you're grabbing anybody, I'm grabbing him and then building a team around him. Because as the old saying goes, you can't teach height. That's the kid's got skills that go way beyond normal 7-footers in college. The kid runs like he's a guard.
And the best part about it, he's only been playing organized basketball for 3 years.
It's a beautiful thing. I love watching the kid. The kid, I went in an interview with him. The kid seems, normal, down to earth type of kid, just a regular dude. And I wouldn't be surprised if he actually goes back to Kansas for another year. even though he could cash in and be the number one pick this year.
Yeah, but I think he would need another year of development. I mean, it's just to get used to the United States because, I mean, where he comes from, I mean, it's, you know, to get used to that, I mean, you need to be mentally prepared for the NBA on top of being physically prepared, and I think that another year in college would suit him well, but I just saw with a lot of the other guys, it's, you know, the money, you have to go where the money is.
Hopefully he doesn't turn out to be the next Hashim Thabit.
Oh, my God.
Talk about a disaster. That kid, that's the path of the African kid who's only played a short amount of time.
But you saw how bad he was at UConn. It took him until his junior year to actually latch on, and even then, he was brutal. I mean, he averaged 10 points and 9 rebounds as a junior at UConn. Why he was drafted over James Harden, I have no idea to this day.
Because you can't teach height. Everybody thought that they could turn this kid into a basketball player, and that turns out you can't. He's just not that good. He made himself a nice bit of change though, and then he can go back to Tanzania and be happy. My old boss actually knows him. He's from Tanzania, but poor Hashim. It was a disaster. Now DeMarcus Cousins got a whole lot of money to stay with the Sacramento Kings. He signed this big extension. And now he's a crazy person this year because
the honeymoon's over.
Well, has he just become a crazy person? Or has he always been a crazy person?
Well, he's been a psycho competitor. He should be on the Joe Smarge All-Star team for psycho competitors.
Yeah, he's a KG type. I like it.
Exactly.
I call him. I think that he really more belongs on the crybaby team of the year because that's all he does is cry.
Uh-oh. But why did he punch Patrick Beverley?
Because he's a baby.
Oh,
he can't handle losing.
He does. He definitely can't handle losing. He hates losing. So, I mean, don't we respect a person that doesn't like to lose?
Yeah, but there's to a certain extent. I mean, do you have the ability to go and punch someone every time that you're not winning? You know what I mean? It's a difference.
No, he needs to learn some discipline. Someone needs. He would probably benefit from having KG on the bench with him.
Of course, and that's
to relax him.
What they need to do is they need to sign a big man because what he needs to do is gain maturity. This team is going nowhere unless he learns to grow up. I mean, he could be a top two center in the league, to be honest. The way that he can shoot the rock, the way he can rebound, he can be, you know,
he can be the best center in the NBA. Exactly.
He just needs to get maturity, you know, gain maturity and just grow up. I mean, he's 21 years old, 22 years old. You know what I mean? It's time to grow up and do your thing. And the Kings are going to be held back until that. And once they get Isaiah Thomas out of their starting point guard position because he's just a chucker.
Well, I hold out hope for DeMarcus because if Rasheed Wallace can become a coach and a role model in the NBA, then anything can happen.
I mean, like I said, within the next 5 years, I think that he'll be a top two center in this league. And I think that once he gains maturity and then loses maturity issues, I mean, he'll be at least an NBA champion at least once in his career. That's if he can take care of those issues. It may not be with the Kings, but he will get one.
All right. Now, I've never talked to you about the NBA. Who do you like in the NBA? You're a Celtics fan?
Diehard Celtics fan.
Diehard Celtics fan. Ben, how far back do you go with your Celtics? Where did you come in?
Probably around 92. I was 7 years old, but until what I can actually remember is probably 99. Paul Pierce's second year in the league.
Ah, so you rode the bad years, and
Correct.
Then you got rewarded with that championship.
Correct.
Okay, well then, yeah, I remember the bad years. Whew, it was ugly.
Now, what are
the Celtics going to do in the future? Rondo is sneaking off to go to birthday parties, and the local media seems to be making a big deal about all of this nonsense. Well, actually, one local media source seems to be making a big deal about it, the Boston Herald. And is it a big deal that Rondo snuck off to go to a birthday party?
Not at all. I mean, if you look at what he did when he tore his ACL, I mean, he traveled with the team. He was always there. You know, he didn't miss a road trip. And I think, one day, I don't think it's a big deal, to be honest. I think that when all is said and done, it's going to be, a small hitch and a rather good year for him, as a leader. I think that when all is said and done, where they need to go is they need to build around him. I think they need to, find pieces that are complementary because he's not a number one guy because he doesn't have the ability to handle the offense. But if the Celtics are going to come back to glory and win a championship in the next 10 years, it's going to be with Rondo, because he is the best distributing point guard in the league, and they'll be stupid to let him go.
Well, I heard a quote today on the Colin Cowherd show on ESPN Radio from a scout that said they wouldn't even put Rondo in the top 25 of point guards in the NBA right now.
Which is ridiculous based on the fact that...
That's what I think. I thought it was a bit ridiculous. I was like, wait a minute now. I've been watching Rondo. I've watched Rondo take over games and win big games for the Celtics. And I've watched him just dominate other point guards and just own them and do what he wanted. And this is a guy that's a really good NBA basketball player. They broke down the numbers since he came back, too, and he's shooting at a better clip now. I know it's a small sample size, but he's shooting at a better clip than he has in the past. And he's now can be a leader, and he's got a new coach and a fresh start. I think re-signing Rondo is important. Then they need, who do they go after? Do they go after a Gordon Hayward? Who can the Celtics realistically sign? There is, like I said, we were arguing earlier about Kevin Love. That's a real destination, is the Celtics. The Celtics have a shit ton of assets that they can trade for Kevin Love. And then then that would still leave them cap space to sign another guy to go along with Kevin Love. And
well, I don't think Kevin Love would want to be in Boston. I think Kevin Love, if he's going to go anywhere, he wants to go back to Southern California, where he's born and raised. I think that's his priority. If they're smart,
that may be, but the Lakers they can sign him, but the Lakers don't have a path, don't have anything right now. There's no roadmap for the Lakers. Mm-hmm. They're just kind of willy-nilly going to throw this thing together.
Yeah.
The Celtics, on the other hand, have assets to give to Minnesota to make it realistic, and then that gives the Celtics the best option to sign Kevin Love for the most amount of money, because he maximizes his money by signing with the Celtics. And the Celtics have the tradition. The Celtics have a lot of things that they can appeal to. Danny Ainge can sit down with Kevin Love and be like, listen, this is a team with just as much history as the Lakers, just as much gravitas, just as much anything. You can be literally the king of the town in this town right now. And in L.A., he'd be a smaller fish in a huge pond. In Boston, he'd be it during the winter. He'd be the athlete. Everybody would have a Love jersey. Everybody in Boston would have a Love jersey.
I agree, but I don't think that's something that's in Danny's plans. I think if Danny's going to make a move this offseason, it's going to be for someone like a Greg Monroe, where he can play center, and then try to push for Gordon Hayward. I think that, Danny is not going to be about the big move this time. I think that he's going to rely on, getting, assets that are going to make the team good, and then in the long run get someone.
Yeah, but do you want to be?
I don't think Kevin Love would be someone who would take them over the top. You look at what they've done before.
Greg Monroe is a realistic signing, but you'd put him next to Kevin Love.
Well, and that's the thing is, I don't think that you'd be able to get both. With Rondo's contract and Jeff Green's contract, you need to find a way to get rid of Jeff Green's contract and Gerald Wallace.
Jeff Green's contract goes to Minnesota. Bye.
Well, what are you going to do with Gerald Wallace's contract that's $10 million a year?
No, you're going to have to just buy out Gerald Wallace.
Yeah. So when all is said and done, I think that, the realistic thing for them to do right now is either
that doesn't make them
hold off and pull off exactly what they did when they got Ray Allen, is, trade a draft pick in a solid draft that they're not going to get what they want to get someone maybe like a Kevin Love, but then you need to push for someone even better to team with Rondo, because it's, in this league right now, if you can get, like I said, if you can find a way to get all three of them, I think that you're going to make yourself, a really rich team in the long run. But again, it's, making sure that you fit the pieces together, because again, you need to look at it.
If you fit pieces together, Greg Monroe and Gordon Hayward are not good enough to put you over the top. They're not good enough. You're not.
If you get a top 5 pick in this draft, and this is what I'm going to say, and I'll say this to
I'm going to give you the ideal scenario that you're talking about. You get Greg Monroe, you get Gordon Hayward, and you draft, give me a guy, Wiggins.
No, I'd go and see if you get Gordon Hayward, you either run Gordon Hayward at the 2, you hope to get Jabari Parker, or you push for Marcus Smart and pray that he turns out to be just like Dwayne Wade, because they have very similar numbers. And those are the two that I would push for, because, Embiid, if you're getting Monroe, you don't need Embiid.
Marcus Smart doesn't shoot good enough to be put next to to be the guy next to Rajon Rondo. If anything, you make the move to try and sign Lance Stevenson. He's an unrestricted free agent. If you want a shooting guard, you go after Lance Stevenson.
There's no way he's leaving Indiana, I don't think.
If you offer him a good amount of money to go elsewhere, I mean, he's an unrestricted free agent. That's it.
Yeah, but he's averaging 13 points a game. Are you going to average him a max contract for someone who's averaging 13 a game? You know?
No, you don't go that far. You don't give him a max contract. You just give him more than what the other guys are doing. He's a better option than Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward doesn't play defense like Lance Stevenson. Gordon Hayward.
Lance Stevenson really isn't that good of a defender. He's a part of his system, you know? He's all a part of the system.
Gordon Hayward's shooting below 30% from three-point range this year. Lance Stevenson is not. Lance Stevenson is shooting well from three-point range this year. Lance Stevenson is a good basketball player, and the Celtics would be lucky to sign a guy like that. Eric Bledsoe, he's a point guard. You can't put, him and Eric Bledsoe and Rajon Rondo in the backcourt together would be a miracle move. And he's a free agent. That'd be a ridiculous. You'd never get the ball up court against those two. Bledsoe and Rondo, that'd be lockdown. Those are lockdown guards right there.
Hi, folks. Did you know that Argo brand cornstarch has been the chef's choice in cornstarch for over 75 years? And you know what else? Our own Frenchie the Greek is a 5-star chef with over a decade of experience. So tell us, Frenchie, why is Argo the chef's choice in cornstarch?
I apply Argo liberally throughout the day to reduce chafing and prevent irritation. Nothing keeps me as comfortable all day long.
So there you have it. Argo, the chef's choice for over 75 years.
Argo cornstarch. It promotes dryness.
Well, moving on.
Moving on. Baseball.
Yeah, we got a little bit of baseball news to talk about. Mike Trout signed a $1 million one-year deal. Is it a good move for the Angels?
Bad move for the Angels. The Angels need to lock him up long term. The Angels are gonna, because it's gonna end up, him signing for 1 year just means they're gonna end up paying him more on the back end.
Yeah.
That's all this means. That just means, all right, this is another year. This just means we're gonna have to give him another year on that contract when we go to re-sign him when they finally work out the long-term deal. But the $1 million for 1 year, it'd be a dream to see Trout hit the open market. I'd love to see teams bid on him. Imagine the Dodgers and the Yankees just rolling up big trainfuls of money to Mike Trout's house. That's what's gonna, if he hits the open market, that's what it's gonna come down to. The Dodgers and the Yankees in an all-out bidding war for the services of Mike Trout.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the best news for you and I, LJ, for our fantasy team, because essentially he's just playing for his contract again. He's gonna have to put up good numbers. So I'm happy
it's
about
always
that.
good. It's always good when you got a poor kid playing for his meal.
Yeah.
That's what he's essentially doing, is he's playing so he can keep eating.
The other baseball tidbit we have is that the league has put into place new rules regarding collisions at home plate, regarding runners and catchers. Basically, you will not be able to block the plate if you are not in possession of the ball, if you are a catcher. If you have the ball, then you are allowed to block the runner and tag him out. And so that's really all they've really changed. And they hope that will eliminate some possibility of collisions. What do you think about it?
It'd be wrong for me to say that I didn't think about it.
Well, the concussion thing, is an issue for all sports to some extent. I don't feel like it takes a lot away from the game. It's a pretty infrequent play, but it is like one of the most spectacular things to see in the highlights at the end of the day when you're done, when you're watching ESPN or whatever, is to see, the whole home plate drama in a game. But I think it's a good thing, and I don't think it's really going to affect much. I think the replay rules are going to be the big thing that we'll be looking at this year, as far as affecting the game and the gameplay and whatnot. So, spring training.
The replay rules will stop people from yelling and screaming at their talk radio hosts about missed calls.
It won't. No, it won't. LJ,
they're still going to call up talk radio and yell and scream about calls?
Joe, you're from Boston. You know what they'll be saying about the replays, right? They'll be screaming and yelling.
I think that we've already heard that. I mean, Michael Felger is the number one person against it. The issue that a lot of people are going to have is it's just going to make baseball games so much longer. The biggest issue with baseball is, I mean, you're going and you're going to watch the game, and it takes around 4.5 hours for the game to be complete. By that time, it's, everyone's pretty much done. So, I mean, it's hard to have 162 games. It's so impossible to have that many games and keep someone, into it the entire season. So, I mean, adding the replays is just going to make it even longer. So I think that they need to find ways if they're going to implement this replays to speed the game up.
Yeah, I was really hoping that they would just do what the NHL does, where they just have a replay booth, a central replay location where they're watching all the games. And they just phone in, like, when something's off. They just call down and tell the umps of the game, hey, guys, you got to fix this. And that's it. That would speed it up because then there's no challenges. Yeah, there's none of this bullshit with the challenges.
Well, I like that. The challenges are important, though. I mean, you need that. I mean, you need to make sure a home run is an actual home run. I mean, we've had some controversy, and if you want to keep the game from people get upset when there's a bad call, and this eliminates that upset. So, I mean, people are going to have to sacrifice one for the other. I understand people don't want to sit and wait around for a ruling to come down. They can get more efficient with how they do the replay thing, but I think the idea of the replay is good. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of the replay. I like that it's going to happen. I'm willing to wait. And, I mean, baseball is a thing you put on in the background anyway. It's not something you focus on. I just feel bad for the people that are at the actual game because, that slows everything down along with TV timeouts.
Well, especially if it's actually thinning and they stop serving booze.
Yeah, that's when it's a real drag. That's when people are going to get antsy and maybe violent. Hopefully not. Before that, it'll sell more beer. There's more time to get down there and get to the line. So
that is true. There's going to be some drunker people.
Well, there's always more drunks at the game. So
especially in Boston.
Speaking of crazy, out of control people, Richie Incognito beat up his car with a baseball bat, and it's a Ferrari too.
Ah, what a shame.
He didn't know what racial slur to call it, and so he got so frustrated he had to beat it with a bat.
So it was a black Ferrari?
It was a yellow
Ferrari. I got
Ferrari.
Confused. Oh, okay. That's even more confusing, I guess, for Richie.
Yes, and so it really confused him. But the NFL is trying to deal with a I guess they call it a serious issue. The use of the word nigger. And they want to ban the use of the word. So if you get caught doing it in an NFL game, you get a 15-yard penalty. Now, I read an article on Deadspin that said we have a generation gap with the use of the word. The use of the word does not come with the same connotation for a 25-year-old kid as it does for a 55-year-old black man. The 55-year-old black man is used. You heard that word used in vicious hate. The 25-year-old black kid has not heard that word as much used as viciously. Instead, they've heard it used amongst themselves and his peers and everybody else to mean dude. Basically, hey, what up, nigga? And so is he going to get the 15-yard penalty the same way the white guy is for using it as a racial slur? Are they going to take into account context when the word is used? Now, our referee's going to have to figure out context on the field. Is there going to be a ruling about this? I mean, what's going to happen? This is a bit ridiculous when it comes to language policing. Because do you take into account context or do you not take into account context? Do you just ban the word outright and just make sure everybody doesn't use it? I mean, I don't know. I'm against language policing, but what do you guys?
Oh, and to be honest, I came from an area where I grew up where that word was used heavily. And what I will say about it when all is said and done is I think that the way that it's used now is wrong. I don't think that there's any place in this, in sports and anything for that word, the way that it's being used. I mean, to this point, and I think the most, the sideways thing is, Richie Incognito came and said, well, I had permission to say it. The people in the locker room gave me permission to say it. No one has a right to give someone permission to say that word because 90% of the people who are using it in that league don't have any sort of knowledge to, or have to deal with a lot of the stuff of how, other people do. So I don't think that they have the right to allow someone to say a word, and that's one of the things that really upsets me about this, this world now is people give a white person the permission to say it. No one should say it, and as a white person, I'll never say it. That's the number one thing I'll say.
You want to tell black people not to use the word when they're addressing each other?
I'm just saying there's no need for it.
You think Roger Goodell and the Rules Committee of the NFL has the right to tell the players what they can and cannot say on the field?
Well, they do
already.
already.
Penalize them?
They can get a flag for taunting, correct? Taunting could be anything. So you know what?
Yeah, I know, but at some point you gotta put your foot down if you're the players, right? I mean, I honestly think that this is just ridiculous. I mean, you can be the self-righteous person and the word should never be used, but the word is used, and it's used in different contexts. And you can come down and you can just give a sweeping don't use it. But then you're gonna start saying, well, you can't use the word fag, or you can't use the word, you can't say, oh, this is gay. You can't say that. I mean, there's a lot of words that used in a certain context mean certain things, when used in a different context mean a different thing.
But you have to know, at this point in time, using the word fag and using the word gay are going to change now as well, because again, we're in a changing society. When all is said and done, I think that they're going to find ways not to use that word, because again, in the society that we're in, there are going to be homosexuals that are playing sports now. There are homosexuals that are playing football now. Outside of Michael Sam, I guarantee there's at least 20 plus homosexuals playing in the NFL. So I mean, I think it's something that should be used.